Hello, Caitlin. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So excited to have you. Can you tell folks a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. I'm Caitlin Bacher, and I help course creators sell their courses without launching. So, over the years, we've developed an online program called Scale with Success. And in that program, we have a step by step method that really walks course creators through the process of creating an automated process so they can sell their course on autopilot and really reap all the rewards of selling their course consistently.
Amazing. And how on earth did you get into this specific line of work?
Okay, so probably like some of your listeners, it was a long and windy road, but I will shorten it for the purposes of this podcast. So I initially started out as a social media manager. And so I was the person that was responsible for creating the content, the graphics, the copy, everything. I was responsible for scheduling it, all of that. And after I did that for a while, I kind of felt a little bit restless and I was tired of being the person who was actually implementing for the business. And I wanted to be the person that was focused more on strategy. So I decided to shift more into consulting so that I could meet with business owners and really help them develop a strategy for their social media marketing that then they could implement for themselves. And after I did that for a while, I kind of realized that I was answering the same questions on every single call. No matter what the business was that came through, they had the same problems, and I had very similar solutions. And so, what I decided to do was to package what I knew, package kind of the method that I would take people through, and I would package it into an online course. And so my very first course was all about social media marketing. I made every mistake in the book. The course was like had way too much information. It was so big. I tried to cover everything. Um but people loved it, and I really enjoyed creating it, and I enjoyed the process of delivering it as well. And over time, I noticed that the one section that people were most interested in that giant social media marketing course was Instagram. And so I thought, maybe I should create a course that is only focused on Instagram. So I did that. And while I was selling that Instagram course, I started my own free Facebook group, and I began selling that Instagram course inside of the free Facebook group. Then I was like, you know what? I'm tired of Instagram. I'm going to create a course about free Facebook groups. So I created a course about free Facebook groups. And while I was creating and selling that course about or while I was selling the course about free Facebook groups, I was still doing the launch model. So I was still launching, and it was when I was able to make the switch from launching to selling on autopilot that I had my very first $1 million year. And it was from selling that free Facebook group course. And it was the process that I had developed over time to sell my course on autopilot. Then I was like, I got to make a course about this. So then I ended up making a course about that. It's called Scale with Success, and we've been selling it for around 7 years. And so that's kind of the short version of how it all began.
Okay, that's so amazing, and I love that you have sort of followed what works for you and what you see working in your community and what you see a need for. I would love to sort of talk about your Facebook group strategy first, if you don't mind. Is
So
that
we can totally talk about that, but what I will say is that I don't use or recommend free Facebook groups, right? So,
that's important information
yeah.
right there.
So it's totally fine, like, if people already have them, but our method, our process doesn't utilize that at all.
And so it used to, and then you decided that wasn't for you.
It never so our the Scale with Success method, it never included anything about free Facebook groups. So,
Great. Okay.
sorry.
That's no, no, that's totally great. Because yeah, I think there's a lot of pros and cons to the Facebook group world.
Yeah, and it's not like they're bad. It's just our program, it doesn't require you to have any of that.
Okay. So I guess I would like to learn from you why launching didn't work for you and
Yeah.
why you wanted to create sustainable growth automatic instead of launching programs.
Yeah, so there's 3 core problems that I had with launching and that I see a lot of other people have as well. So the first is that feeling of being crunched for time, right? So as a small business owner, our time is a limited resource, right? We don't have unlimited investments coming in and, these giant like 50 people teams or anything like that. So we're tasked with creating products, promoting those products, closing deals, delivering a solid experience for our customers. Um, and that's a lot. And the number one way to really expand our time, which is a limited resource, is to build momentum. And it's very difficult to build momentum with the start and stop cycle of launching. So here's what I mean. When you're launching basically requires, 2 or 3 months of intense list building and content distribution, which is leading up to what's called an open cart, right? And during that open cart period is when you're allowing people to enroll in your course. And that open cart period can last anywhere between 5 or 7 days. Now, and then after that, nobody can buy until the next launch rolls around, which is maybe 4 months or a year later. And what many course creators find is when their launch ends, so does all of the momentum that they've been working so hard to generate. So it's basically radio silence for your business until the launch cycle begins all over again, as opposed to creating a business that's really fueled by momentum. And uh, and what I think the way that I kind of like to visually describe it is it's kind of like a snowball, right? Like when you're first like building up the snowball, it takes your personal effort to, get things rolling. But after that, it's rolling on its own and it's growing on its own. And that's what we really want for your business. So number one is crunched for time. Number two is you really want to increase not just revenue, but profit in your business. Now, I know because I've done it myself, big launches are a huge expense, and nobody really talks about that. To make matters worse, if that launch doesn't go well, you're stuck with kind of your hands in your pockets until the next launch rolls around. And I get so many DMs every day from people who are smack dab in the middle of a launch. Everything's going wrong. Now, these are capable, smart, resourceful course creators, but the launch model isn't suited to a business of their size. So, small business owners really need to find ways to reduce risk, not to increase it. And when you're selling on autopilot and, you're enrolling new students into your programs every single day, not just a couple times a year, it really puts you in this position where you can sustainably grow over time, right? Week by week, your sales and your marketing skills are improving. You're beginning to create messages that resonate more with your audience, and that's because you have more opportunities to really practice and get better. And the third reason that I would say, a lot of people figure out that they want to shift from launching to selling on autopilot is just because they don't like it. And and the truth is, some people love launching, and that is great for them. If you love launching, if it's working for you, awesome, right? The the thing that I don't want people to do is I don't want anyone to fall into the trap of believing that there's only one right way to do something, right? There are so many different ways. And if you don't like launching, you do not have to do it, period, right? And the thing is that when, a lot of what we hear about is these like big fancy launching strategies, but just because someone else is doing it doesn't mean that you have to do it also. And there's also a whole other group of people out there that are quietly selling their course on autopilot and reaping the rewards of that.
Um, I took a couple notes here, but one of the things that you said is like that you keep on getting better at your messaging. And I
Mhm.
totally can understand that, especially when you're in launch mode and you're like crunched for time. Like sometimes your brain doesn't work the best during that time too.
Yeah.
So like you miss out on maybe some key elements or some key observations. And I can totally see how um also like I can see how that messaging can get better, and I also think that this could be better for your nervous system too. And
Mm.
when your nervous system is more calm, some of these ideas can come to you easier, and there's a lot of better things when your nervous system is calm, because
Yeah.
launching can be really hard. Not only is it expensive and time consuming, but like it's like brain consuming. Like you are checking your stats, you are checking all your engagement, you are,
Mhm.
loading your Thrive card or whatever platform you use, and that's exhausting.
Yeah, and the reason you have to do that is because you have such a limited time to make those sales, right? It's not like it's something ongoing. It's like you gotta get it is urgent and you do have to get in there and make it work. And if it doesn't, you're kind of left there hanging.
Yeah. So, are you not of the belief that you need to like live launch first and then you can turn it evergreen, or are
So
you cold about that?
I love that question because I think one of the biggest myths out there is that you have to live launch before you switch to evergreen. And what I tell people is that the content strategy, meaning what you're putting in your live webinar, what you're putting in the emails that come before the live webinar or after the live webinar or the live challenge or whatever it is that you're doing for your live launch, that content strategy is totally different than the content that you would put inside of an evergreen webinar, inside of an automated webinar. I do not advise anyone to try to simply repurpose that live webinar into an automated funnel. And the reason why is because the buying experience for the prospect is completely different. And there are things that you can do inside of a live launch, inside of that live webinar to kind of really pique curiosity, to kind of almost be like a little bit vague on certain parts because you want people to ask the question because you're live. So if they ask the question, then you're answering it and getting into more details, right? When you are selling inside of an automated funnel, if you were to put a webinar that was designed to sell live into an automated funnel, it tanks. And I see, and it's because your offer is not your presentation is not designed in a way that people who are watching it in that automated funnel and don't have the ability to ask you questions right away, they're not able, they're confused. And I think that when what I see a lot of people do is they take a they they'll do some live webinars and they'll be like, oh, this one works, okay, now I'm going to put it in an automated funnel. And they do that and they might get a few sales initially and then it just like either like it totally flatlines. And in their head, they're making that mean that maybe launching just doesn't work for them. Maybe my audience will only buy in a live launch. I guess this means my audience just won't buy in an automated funnel, right? But the problem is not your audience. The problem is the content that you're putting inside of the funnel and being able to make things crystal clear for your audience in terms of what's inside of your offer, what problems does your course help people solve. It has to be so clear that when people are watching they're able to make a decision without needing to interact a bunch with you or ask you a bunch of questions.
So, what are some key elements that you need to have an evergreen launch?
Yeah. So if you're selling evergreen, it basically means that new people are entering your sales cycle every day, right? And so the number one so you have traffic, you have people coming in, whether that is from people, maybe they're sharing a link to your evergreen funnel. Maybe you are promoting your link organically. Maybe you're doing it with paid traffic. However it is that you're doing it, you're sending people to your sales mechanism, which is, if it's automated, it takes those people that are coming in and it takes them through a journey that helps them make a decision that's right for them. So when you're launching, everyone is consuming the exact same content at the exact same time. But when you have an automated or an evergreen funnel set up, people are coming in and they're shown content based on decisions that they're making inside of your funnel, right? So if they click here, they might see this. If they don't click here, they may not be ready to receive that next email. And so it may be a waiting period and then they get this. And so the really great thing about automation is that we're able to craft these funnels that are based on consent and permission, and it's almost like people are choosing their own adventure and they're getting a sales experience that makes them feel whole and complete, and not like they're being shoved down, this path along, like kind of like herding cattle or something. um, so that's what, so I would say that, of course, the main pieces of the funnel are, you have to get traffic to the sales mechanism. Then you have the sales mechanism itself, which is, in our case, we show people how to do an automated webinar. And then it's getting people to enroll, and then have a great experience inside of your program.
And like even for me, one of my big hangups is
Mhm.
tech.
Oh,
And
yeah.
even though I am probably a lot more comfy with some of these tech things than other listeners too, it's always like the first thing that really is scary to me,
Yeah.
especially with funnels. And like, we have some funnels. I understand funnels.
Yep.
But like when you said the if then statements, like, if they click and then get
Mhm.
another option, like that makes my brain explode.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, do you have any, I don't know, advice for
Yes.
people to sort of like start to feel confident to make these decisions and to do the thing?
Yeah. So what I would say is that if you're going to embark on the journey to build out a funnel of any sort, it's really important that you're not just kind of making it up on the fly, because if you do, I guarantee you will overcomplicate it to the point where your funnel is like the most complex, seemingly fancy thing that ever existed. And one thing I always tell my clients is, you know, uh, is simple scales and complex fails. And what that means is, if you create something simple and strong and effective, you're going to be able to scale that much higher to make more revenue, to bring in more people, to impact more lives than you ever will if you get into the complexities. And I think that what happens for a lot of people is that they begin to have this idea in their head where they're thinking, um, they need to add more, right? They're like, well, prospects need more nurturing, so I'm going to have them sign up for a lead magnet, and then they're going to go to a thank you page and see this, and then they're going to get this email sequence, and then this, and then this. I was talking to a woman recently in my DMs, and she was really struggling to sell her course, and I was like, well, what do you do, how are you selling it right now? She had 8 different funnels for the same course, and this was a business owner who was making less than 6 figures a year. She didn't have a big team. She's doing all of everything herself, working herself into the ground. I was like, why do you have 8 different funnels? She's like, well, I know this other person does. I'm like, how much money is that person making? She's like, well, she's making millions a year. And so I said, you know what? Why don't you wait until you're making millions a year before you could embark upon the journey to create 8 different funnels? Like, I don't even have 8 different funnels and I'm making millions a year. Like, it's just, it can be, the online space is so tricky because sometimes we see other people do things and we're thinking, oh, you know what? That looks really cool. I'm going to go try that. But that's not what that person did to get to where they are now, right? Like I tell people all the time, like I have in within my evergreen business, I do a lot of different things. I have live events now that I didn't have when I was when I was working towards my first million per year, right? And that's because now I have a big team, I have a big ads budget, I have a big budget for tech, I have all these things, and that's not what I'm helping people do. I'm helping people get to their first million. And I always tell people, like, after that, like, call me, like, we'll get on a one call. I'll tell you everything that I'm doing, all that kind of stuff. But it's like, the online space can be very distracting. And so having something that you're following step by step so that you're not getting in over your head and just making things way harder than they need to be.
Yeah, that's me for sure.
That was me too, totally.
That is me. Um, yeah. So maybe we can get into my nitty-gritty a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
So we have 4 courses,
Okay.
and they are all running right now evergreen. I am in the process of reworking 2 of them to make them a little bit more extensive.
Okay.
Um, they're 2 of them are under $200. One of them or 2 of them are like $57. Very
Okay.
affordable.
Yep.
Um, and I think I've overcomplicated things
Yeah.
so much. And so I guess one of my simple questions maybe
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
like, can my welcome sequence that's attached to a freebie,
Mhm.
can it exist as just a welcome? Should it exist as just a welcome sequence? Or should it lead to the courses? Or is it too complicated to try and have it serve both things?
So, here's what I would say. So, a couple different things. First, just to pull back, selling 4 different courses is complex. That's hard to do. And I can tell you that the people that I've helped make over a million per year, they come to me and they have a product suite is that is okay, but they don't have the current resources to put the needed attention into like maintaining it and making sure the marketing is right and all of that. So the first thing that I would do is figure out how we can simplify that so that it's kind of like when you're if you think about focus, right? If you're focusing your time and energy on a wider variety of things, each one becomes less effective. And if you're able to kind of narrow that focus and put all your time, your energy into resources into nailing that one funnel, then after that, you can be like, you know what? Okay, now that I have this $200 offer, or I don't know if you're going to raise the price 300, 500, 1,000, whatever it is. Once I have this up and running and it's selling on autopilot, then I can think about, oh, should I have another smaller offer that I can insert here to perhaps offset the cost of ads or whatever? And so I'm a big fan of focusing on the main thing first. And part of that means that you have one main funnel. So when people are coming to you, they're the free thing, uh, the lead magnet or whatever that they're signing up for. That is something that is, yes, designed to give them tremendous value, but you're also pitching at the end. So instead of, if you have that 200, 300,000, whatever it is, offer, then you're sending traffic to that. That's what you're advertising for free. You're saying, hey, sign up for this free thing. They're coming in, they're enrolling. And then after that, after they become a customer, then maybe you have some other higher ticket things that you offer them later on. Like maybe if they want to work more closely with you or they're ready for a next level or something like that. But it is difficult if you're selling 4 products, and it's difficult if you have 2 that are at the same price and another 2 that are at the same price, because psychologically people get confused, right? They're like, "Oh, well, I bought the $57 one." You're like, "Well, I have 2." They're like, "What?" You know?
Yes.
But what do you think about like, when I say that, like, what comes up for you? Like,
What comes up for me? This is a coaching therapy
I
session. The
know.
funnels. Um, yeah, I mean, that's not all I do. Also, we also, throw like 10 events all over the US.
Right.
So we do a lot. Um,
Yeah.
what comes up for me is I immediately know which class I would like to focus on.
Mhm.
So that comes up for me.
Yeah.
Um, I think another pain point for me, and I know a lot of listeners, is this thing about pricing.
Oh,
Um,
totally.
and I know for our community, or like my stickiness in our community is like, well, they're all beginning business owners or makers, and we want to make sure that they have access to this
Yep.
information at an affordable price, right?
Mhm.
And I'm doing my best to start to uh, deal with that, and
Mhm.
what that looks like. Um, what else? Yeah, that's a major one, I think. Um, and yeah, I don't know.
Here's what I would say about that, because the pricing thing is so real. And I don't like it when people just kind of glaze over that and they're like, well, you should just, charge what you're worth or do this or that, or just raise your prices. Because sometimes that's not always the answer. And what I will say is the thing that, because I am anyone that knows me knows I'm very emotional, I'm very intuitive, like I am all of that. And the thing that helps me the most is when it comes to business, is to really look at the data over drama, look at facts over feelings, not in a way where I'm like, suppressing my emotions or not doing not following my interests. I'm very much doing that. But here's the harsh reality. You can 100%, if you want to make a $200 course and sell that, that's totally fine. But you have to crunch the numbers and see profit wise, if it scales, can you continue to offer everything you're offering at that price point? And I'm saying that as someone who, like, my very first course, I think my very first course I sold for, it was $97. No, it was 197. My first course was 197. It came with lifetime access to a community. I was doing calls, I was doing with lifetime access. It was like I was putting everything into it. And the more I sold, like it wasn't sustainable. Like I couldn't afford to keep doing that. And so it's kind of like you want to put as much as you can into your course, but you also, like every plant needs water to grow, every business needs revenue to thrive. And if you don't have that money, your business can't continue to operate. You can't hire more people, you can't make the program better, you can't, do all those things. So it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's also particularly hard because we already have a built-in audience that's very
Yep.
specific, right? We
Yep.
have folks who are doing our shows. And so we've already sort of established ourselves to offer events to, smaller businesses.
Mhm.
And so to sort of elevate that audience to, folks who can invest even like $500 in a course,
Mhm.
um, it's tricky.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tricky, and here's what I will tell you. Number 1, I had one client, so she was a housekeeper, and the more houses she cleaned, the more money she would make. So she got really, really fast. And she got fast because she kind of like developed this method for herself in order to clean a house top to bottom. So she was eventually able to hire other people to help her clean houses, like all of that, right? Like a scaling business. And what she decided to do is package what she knew into a course and market note what she knew about cleaning a house quickly, and she packaged it into a course that was marketed to busy parents of young kids, because who wants to clean a house fast more than a busy parent of young kids, right? She sold that course for $197, and her business grew to over 500K in revenue each year. And so the reason why I mention that is because there are so many different ways to grow $1 million business, a six-figure business, a $10 million business, whatever it is. And so the most important thing to really think about is, a, like, what is the kind of experience that I want to deliver to my customers, right? Do I want to go all in with this offer, whether it's priced at $500, maybe you have a payment plan, or whether it's 200 or 300 or whatever. I will tell you that I've seen literally the difference between 205 and like 497. I've seen no difference in conversion rate from any of my clients. Like, there is a difference from 200 to 997, but from 200 to 497, it's like, but what that does is it's giving the business money to then put back into the course, right? Whether that means you're able to update the content, you're able to hire help to help you answer more questions or whatever. And so um it's just pricing is a very personal decision, but the thing that's always worked for me, so that I don't get too kind of lost in like all my different feelings about it or whatever, is really like running the numbers. Like, what would it look like if we did this? Wow. If we did this, I could actually afford to create even better free content. So those people that couldn't afford the 497 course, they're actually better served for free. They don't even have to buy the $200 course. You know what I mean?
I do. And I wrote down data over drama.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm gonna get that tattooed on my body somewhere. Because it's tricky, right?
It
I
is.
mean, it's so hard as emotional humans.
Mhm.
We get bad feedback all the time for things. That's just the cost
For
of doing
sure.
business, and you can't help everyone. But man, it gets to you
It
sometimes. It
does.
really does.
Yeah. Yeah.
How are some ways that you sort of handle trolls or bullying or just bad feedback?
Yeah. So I would say one of the best things I did, so even before my business, so my first year of business, even before like we were making six figures a year, I hired a contractor to help me with customer service. And that's because I am there's lots of different people, and some people, they just don't take it personally and they're like, "But like whatever." But I would just like, I'm in there sending an endless amount of email trying to like coach this person through the problem, and it was just like, no, like, this is not it. I can't like, I can't run my business if I'm getting kind of stuck in this. And so the best thing that I ever did was, and it was, a cost to hire this person for, like 10 hours a week, who would come in for 2 hours every day and just like, and take care of the customers. And the customers liked it because they were like, "Oh, okay, well, this is helping me do this or that faster, and I don't have to be on a 20 email back and forth thing with Caitlin where she's coaching me through my hopes and dreams when I just need login access or something like that." You know what I mean? So it's like one of the most important things that you can do as a business owner is really protect your confidence and protect your energy. And nobody else is going to do that for you. And in fact, when you take the steps to do it, some people are not going to like that. And so it's up to you, right? Like, you are like the core center nucleus of everything. So if you're not good, nothing else is going to be good. And we're not taught to do that as women, to like really prioritize that, like to really protect us in that way, right? It's always like, "Oh, I can do this too. Oh, okay, sure, I'll do this. I'll do." And it's like, for business, it's, well, for life in general, but especially for business, it's a no. Because as your energy dips and your motivation falters, your confidence falters, you're not able to show up and serve at your highest level.
Yeah, 100%. And, mixed in with ideas of productivity and capitalistic
Yeah,
tendencies.
sure.
And, even like I've gotten stuck with like having to feel like I need to work extra hard to show my team that I'm working
Oh,
extra.
yeah.
And
Yep,
my
that's so
team are like,
common.
"Phoebe, like, we got this. Take a
Yeah.
break. You don't have to show up here." And
Yep.
it's tricky. It's so, so tricky when we've been taught that, productivity is connected to our worth and our money, when maybe taking care of us ourselves is a better use
Yeah.
of our time.
Yeah. And that is so common. The thing about people feeling like they have to work hard to show their team to be like, hey, like I'm busy too. But the reality is, your team knows that you play a different role than them. And they know if you're not able to show up with that energy to be able to serve, to, market to the audience, to deliver for the customers, then nothing's working. So, but it definitely is a like a mindset shift, right? Because nobody wants to be like, you don't want to, like, so many of us, I feel like we're that kid in the in the group projects, like in elementary school, we're the ones doing like all the work, and we're like, oh, I never want anyone to feel like they're doing all the work on my team. But the reality is that like, you really have to protect your energy.
So, I guess sort of back to core stuff a little bit,
Hmm.
because I guess my question too is like, so let's say everything's automated.
Sure.
Everything's evergreen, you're not live launching.
Yeah.
What does your day-to-day content look like? Are you still producing day-to-day content?
Yes.
Are you still sending out like quote unquote general emails? What does that look like while your
Yeah.
systems are working for you?
So, what I would say is that when you are selling an evergreen course and when you have an automated funnel set up for it, because I'm not involved in the sales process because that's automated, I have more time and space to think about visibility and to think about how do I want to show up for like the greater good? What kind of content do I need to be creating? And this might be a little bit controversial because I know, so much advice out there is like, you have to outsource everything. And like, the bigger your team, the better you are. And like, da, 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 all this stuff. Right. And what I will say is that a lot of course creators that do not have an automated way to make sales, they're stretched between sales and marketing and delivery. And so they look for people, they try to kind of outsource the marketing. And when I say outsource the marketing, I don't mean outsource like the scheduling or like the posting of it, but I mean they're outsourcing like the core thing that they really need to be focused on because it's your voice that's coming through, right? And so one of the things that I do is I just batch create content, right? So we're sharing on social media every day, and I'm not creating a new video each day. I'm like every 2 weeks I just batch create content, and then I send it to someone else for like the editing and the scheduling and whatever, all of that. But I'm the idea source. Like I'm the person coming in that's creating the message and figuring out how I want to share that. And I think and I have the energy to do that because my sales process is automated, because over time I, built a team and things like that, but I wouldn't be able to do that if I was in the nitty-gritty of sales and marketing and delivery. Although, you know what? I do a live Q&A call for my clients twice a week. So I do that and I absolutely love it. So I host live office hours inside of the community twice per week. It's not a coach, it's me. And I love answering their questions and doing things like that. I'm able to do that because I'm not in the week because I'm not in these like live launches that are, just a few times a year and all of that. I'm able to put on live events now because I have a team that is helping me do everything. And I literally just have to show up and that's all I have to do. But if I was working towards my first million in revenue, I wouldn't have all of that. And so I think it's really important that people get real about what they can and can't do. And like, you don't have the energy to focus on sales, marketing, deliver, like content, all of that. And the more you can, if you're able to really automate your sales process, that opens up your time to then focus on visibility.
Yes. I think the major thing I'm getting from this phone call from this episode, whatever it is that we're doing,
Yeah.
um, is simplify.
Mhm.
And that is tricky for me specifically, and probably for
Mhm.
a lot of creative, multi hyphenates
Yes.
listening, because we like doing a lot of things and we're good at a lot of things and we
Mhm.
want to do it all. And I mean, that's probably the theme of my entire life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate the repeated messaging about simplifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we're running out of time. I'm sure we could talk for 2 more hours.
Yes, probably.
So we won't. So tell us about where we can find you and how we can sign up for your course.
Yeah, sure. So, um, if you go to my website, caitlinbacher.com, there you'll find I have a free masterclass. It's called How to Generate Launch Sized Revenue Without Launching. That is the best place to start because it's going to kind of unpack my method. And so you're going to have a better idea of what it might look like if we work together. The other thing that I have on my website is a free podcast. I do solo episodes. Usually it's once every other week. Sometimes I'm able to do once a week. Usually it's once every other week. And it's just me chatting about a specific topic for like ten minutes or so. So they're very short and sweet episodes. But caitlinbatcher.com is the best place to go.
Amazing. Okay, well, thank you so much, Caitlin. This has been an absolute dream.
Thank you.